Today's reminder, inshallah ta'ala, is about the danger of women. Allah Azza wa Jalla said in the Quran, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, O you who believe, inna min azwajikum wa awladikum aduwwan lakum. Allah said, O you who believe, from your women, from your wives and your children, some of them are enemies. Some of them are enemies to you. So it's interesting now, because a woman, someone that you might love, or the concept of a woman that which you love, that which you desire, Allah referred to her in some cases that she could be an enemy to you. Does that make sense? And how is a woman an enemy? You see these pretty little things walking up and down, looking so miskeen and innocent. But she's an enemy because she could take your deen away, my bro. I'm going to tell you a story that illustrates this. There's a narration that Imam al-Hakim al-Naysaburi rahimahullah, he mentioned from Abu Musa al-Ashari, who's the Prophet's companion, radiyallahu anhu, in which he mentioned there was a man who was a monk. And this particular monk, he worshipped Allah for 70 years non-stop. Brothers, we struggle to worship Allah for 7 days non-stop. This man worshipped Allah for 70 years and he did not stop once. And these monks used to have a sanctuary. And that's where they would go and seclude and isolate themselves so they could just worship Allah. One day after 70 years, the monk came out of the sanctuary. He went to the marketplace so he could buy something that he needed. And as he's in the marketplace, what happens? A beautiful woman walks past. When he saw this beautiful woman, brothers, that iman of 70 years that he had, it wasn't strong enough to defend him against the lust and the desire that he had for this beautiful woman. So his desire overcame him, he engaged with her, and before you know it, he's in bed with her and he's fornicating and sleeping with her. The narration mentions 7 days passed by. 7 days passed by. And he slept with her for 7 nights, 7 days non-stop. On the 7th day, something hit him that made him realize the evil of that which he has done. So he did not take even one step forward except that he fell into sajda, crying, repenting to Allah Azza wa Jalla for what he had done. The man became so disgusted in himself that he started to walk the streets and he came across 12 poor people, 12 beggars. And he came and sat with them and became the 13th. Another monk would come every day and he would prepare 12 loaves of bread and he would give out these 12 loaves of bread to each one of these 12 men. This day when he came, there was how many? 13. So he took the bread, which means one of the guys who would originally receive it today had no bread to eat. The one man who didn't have a piece of bread, he said to the other monk, he said, where's my loaf? The man said, Wallahi, I cook 12 every day, I made 12, I've given out the 12. The monk who realized he took an extra bread, or this man's bread, because he was the extra man, he overheard the conversation. So he took that piece of bread and he threw it over to him. Take it. He gave it up for the sake of Allah. Immediately after he did that, he dropped dead. And when he was brought before Allah Azza wa Jal, Allah Azza wa Jal, he weighed up his 70 years of worship against those 7 nights of zina. Brothers, the filth and the crime and the evil of fornication, sleeping around with someone that you're not married to, is so evil that those 7 nights of zina, they outweighed 70 years of worship. Then Allah, He took the one deed of him giving up the loaf of bread for the sake of Allah, and Allah, He weighed that against his 7 nights of zina, and that one good deed outweighed those 7 nights of zina, and he became from the people of Al-Jannah. And there's many lessons to be taken from this. The importance of sincerity when it comes to an act of worship, that you may do one act of worship sincerely for Allah's sake, and it outweighs a man who worshipped Allah for 70 years. And we know this, the story of the woman from Banu Israel who was a prostitute and she had slept with men. She was a baghiya. And then what? One day she was getting water for herself from the well, and then there was a dog that was thirsty next to her. She gave the dog water to drink. When she died, she was told, "You'll be from the people of Al-Jannah." Why? Because at the one time she sincerely gave water to a dog that outweighed her being a prostitute. But brothers, these things are not common. It requires ikhlas and sincerity. Does that make sense? The power of sincerity is such. But that's not the topic of discussion today. The topic of discussion today is not even how evil zina is. Because zina, 7 days outweighs 70 years of worship potentially. In this man's situation, the lesson to take from here is that, brothers, when you go back to the UK, don't think for yourself, even for 1 second, that you're strong enough against the plotting and the planning of a woman. This man, he worshipped Allah for 70 years. And he saw a beautiful woman, she took his deen away. And this is how the Salaf al-Salih they were. Sa'id ibn Musayyib rahimahullah ta'ala, you know what he used to say? He used to say, there is nothing that I fear more than a woman. He said this at the age of 84 when he was blind. He can't even see them anymore. Ata ibn Abi Rabah rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, I trust myself more with the treasury of the Muslims. All the money which I'm going to be questioned for by Allah on the Day of Judgment, every penny I'll be questioned, I will trust myself more with that than I would trust myself with an ugly woman. Brothers, let's call a spade a spade. Let's be real, okay? We like to think to ourselves, we could just be friends. Don't be an idiot. How many times did that happen in school, in college? She's just my friend, and then what? You might have fell onto her. Or at least you tried. Brothers, do not think to yourself that you can defend yourself against the plotting and the planning of a woman. Allah says, خُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ ضَعِيفًا. We created a human being and he's very weak. He's very weak in the affairs of the woman. Does that make sense? Brothers, I have been doing da'wah for 10 years now. I have now done, this is my, including the sisters' trip, this is our 7th Umrah trip. Every trip I say the same thing. There are people who do not listen, and then they make the same mistakes. I always tell brothers, the one thing that's going to destroy you is women. Be careful where you work. Be careful the schools you go, the colleges you go, the place where you live. Be careful with the women that were already in touch with you prior. Brothers, you have to go hard, cut women off raw. It cannot be that there is a woman that has access to you. Not your socials, not your WhatsApp, not your workplace. If it means start fresh, start a new life, brother, start a new life. Sometimes you come to the deed and you want to get married, so you start talking to this girl. But you're talking to her in haram. You ain't talking to her dad. You ain't been to her dad. You're engaged with her in haram. Tell me, oh, she's my fiancée. Bro, she's your girlfriend. What do you mean my fiancée? She's your girlfriend, bro. That's what she is. And then, what? Then you cry tears of blood. But we told you so. May Allah protect us from the fitna of women. Ameen. I want to tell you, inshallah ta'ala, in this last story, the reward for staying away from the fitna of women. The reward of protecting and shielding yourself against the danger of women. There's a story that Imam Ibn Jawzi, he mentions in Sifatul Safa, in which there were two brothers. One, his name was Ata, and one whose name was Sulaiman. They both came for Hajj, and they had people that were following them. They came to a place called Al-Abwab, which is just outside of Al-Medina. Just outside of Al-Medina here. And what did they do? The younger brother, Ata, said to his older brother, Sulaiman, he said, we have some need, we're going to go and deal with it, and then we'll be back. So he left his older brother, Sulaiman, inside of the house. Ata, he left with the people. When he left Sulaiman, he fell into salah, praying to Allah Azza wa Jal, because that's what the righteous people they were like. They were just praying to Allah, worshipping Allah Azza wa Jal. What happened was, in this situation, a woman, a beautiful woman, she slipped into the house. Ata in salah noticed a woman came in. He thought maybe she needs help, maybe she is in some trouble, maybe I can help her. So what did he do? He quickly shortened his salah. He said to her, do you have a need? Is there anything I can help you with? She said to him, stand up. I want you
Me and you right now, I'm a woman, I'm overcome with lust and passion and desire, and I have no man to fulfill my needs. So I want you. Sulaiman, he stood up. He said, stay away from me. He said, don't burn me and yourself in the hellfire. To show you this is a deed that takes people to the hellfire, my brothers. He said, don't burn me and don't burn yourself in the hellfire. The woman, she was relentless. She was trying to get onto him. She tried every way to convince him to seduce him. He's pushing her away. When he realized, I can't push her away, she's not stopping. He's helpless. She's forcing herself onto him. He just began to cry. He just began to cry. What else could he do? He's crying because he's thinking, how will I protect myself from this evil danger, from this evil filth that I'm about to fall into? And when he cried so much, the woman saw him cry. She then too also began to cry. Now they're both inside of the room crying. Sulaiman, his brother Ata, comes back and his brother begins to cry. He doesn't know what's taking place. He doesn't know what's transpired. They just see this man, this woman crying, and he cries. One by one, all the people that were with them, they come into the room. Each man, they come in. He sees them all crying. All the two brothers and the woman crying. Then he himself cries. Until they all start to cry. Eventually the woman, she realizes she's made everyone cry. She gets up and then she leaves. And then when she leaves, what happens? The brothers, they go about their way and they head over towards Egypt. When they go over there, the brothers, they are sleeping one night. And the younger brother, Sulaiman, he has a dream. And in his dream, he sees the Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. And when he sees Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, he thinks to himself, Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam is so handsome, because Allah put half the world's beauty in his face. He said, you're so handsome. So he begins to cry when he sees Yusuf alayhi salam. Yusuf alayhi salam looks at him and he says, why are you crying? He says, the reason I'm crying is because Prophet Yusuf, I remembered the difficulty you went through when the woman, she tried to trap you, because the woman tried to do zina with him. And I remember that you were taken away from your father, you were thrown into the prison, all the difficulty you went through. When I looked at you, I saw your face, it made me cry. Yusuf responded to him and he said, why are you not more amazed with the man who is in Al-Abwa? And the beautiful woman, she came to him, she tried to force herself on him and he refused. So the brother Sulaiman, he got up crying, shocked. He went over to his brother, Ata, he got up crying. He went over to his brother Sulaiman and he woke him up. He said to him, or he had already woken up. He said to him, my brother, by Allah, I ask you, tell me what was it that happened that day with the woman? What happened with the woman on that day? He said, what happened was that the woman, she came in, she tried to sleep with me, and I protected myself with the permission of Allah. And he just told her the story. Brothers, the lesson to be taken from here was that Yusuf he saw Yusuf in a dream, who was a prophet, who protected himself from the fitna of a woman. He said to the brother, why are you not more amazed with your brother when he protected himself from what? From the woman. And the lesson that we take from here, brothers, is that a person who obeys Allah by protecting himself from the women, he can reach, in some situations, similar to what the prophets reached. He will never be a prophet, he will never reach their rank, but he walks their path. And that's for those who protect themselves from the fitna of women. I just wanted to make you remember this, brothers, because this is something that 100%, if I know the situation as it is, at least a handful of us are going to fall back into when we go back, because we're not going to have listened. Does that make sense? Just make sure you're not the one who falls. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.
Finally, Taha, we're going to be able to produce videos so fast on this new powerful Mac, inshallah ta'ala.
Bro, get off the Mac.
Oh, my bad, bro.
You're bad for real.
Yeah, I didn't see you there, man.
What do you mean you didn't see me? I'm right here.
No, obviously, how am I supposed to see you, bro? At the time we're recording this video, you've not been edited in yet.
Say wallahi.
Yeah, you've been edited.
No way.
Yeah, post-production, my G.
That's mad.
Whole type K visuals, obviously, as you can see.
MashaAllah.
More money came in, we're able to hire a better visual team. That's why we can do stuff like this. But anyway, bro, listen, I need to talk to the people, okay?
Bro, do your thing.
Donated
I'm just gonna sit
for
here and
this
listen,
back in the
inshallah.
first place. So now, brothers and sisters, as you guys saw, literally about just over 24 hours ago, we put out a video saying we need to raise money for new media equipment so we could spread La ilaha illallah across the World Wide Web. And alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin, you guys, almost with Allah's permission, have managed to reach the target, which means we're going to be closing that fundraiser very shortly because we're just a few thousand away from our ultimate goal. Now here's the thing, do you know what that means for you? That means you miss out on an opportunity to get mad reward, because as I showed you in the last video, from that one camera we managed to reach 20 million people. That means there's a potential of 20 million rewards just of YouTube. Imagine all the multiple different cameras, the different computers and the thing that we purchase from these donations, and then all the data that we spread across the internet, the kind of reward you'll get. You see, now when that fundraiser closes, your opportunity is gone, and I'd advise you, please don't miss out on that. Like there was a companion at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet told the Sahaba that there's going to be 70,000 from his ummah that are going to go to Jannah without any accountability, which means no questioning. Day of judgment, straight to paradise. So one of the companions, his name was Ukasha. He stood up and he said, Ya Rasulullah, he said, make dua to Allah that I'm from those 70,000. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to him, Anta minhum. He said, you're from them. It's done. It's done. Another companion heard it and he was like, oh, you just have to do that? He asked the Prophet. So he got up and he said, Ya Rasulullah. He said, make dua to Allah to make me from them as well. And the Prophet said to him, Sabaqaka biha Ukasha. He said, Ukasha beat you to it. That was a limited offer. You missed the window of opportunity. So what that shows you is that don't let someone beat you to the punch. Don't let someone beat you with the opportunity to get that kind of reward. I mean, think about it, man. We've got sins, but I have an opportunity to buy a piece of equipment, which there's going to be multiple rewards that are going to come from it. Rewards in the hundreds and thousands, rewards in the millions potentially, inshallah ta'ala. That's not the kind of good deed that you want to pass up. So anyway, inshallah ta'ala, with that said, I'm going to leave you guys before this guy gets upset.
Open the box.
Yeah, bro, we're going to unbox you soon as the video stops, man. Just be patient, bro. Hasteness from Shaitan. Anyway, listen, bro. Before little me gets upset, I have to bounce. But the link is below if you don't want to donate, inshallah ta'ala, so we can spread this da'wah. Listen, inshallah, we're going to spread this da'wah everywhere, inshallah ta'ala. Everywhere that Allah allows us to do. Of course, we can't do it each and every single place. Before we get a little refutation, oh my God, he said everywhere. Jokers. Assalamu alaikum.